I'm in the city of Juarez, Mexico, known as the murder capital of the world. More than 10,000 people have been murdered in this city in the last couple of years due to cartel violence. As a result, the city has been ravaged, filled with corruption that's rampant, extortion, kidnappings. Even the church has experienced loss of family members and extortion and bribery. A lot of the hope has been lost in this city. 100,000 people have fled the city looking for safety for their families. Thousands of businesses have closed. It's a famous city in the world because of the ravaging of the enemy and his evil, dark activity here, because of the appetite for drugs and the violence by the cartels. But God has a plan for this city. We believe God has a plan of redemption for this city. We believe God wants to take delight in his people and marry this land. He's given us a promise about what's on his heart to do. And in 2011, the Lord, it was a great surprise to us, but the Lord invited Fusion Ministries to get involved in this city and to share the vision and hope of transformation and come alongside the church in consecrating herself back to the Lord. And it's been a joy and a privilege for us to serve what God's doing in this city. And recently, the Lord has begun to raise up a house of prayer with the victims of the injustice, the very children that have been orphaned by the cartel violence. The Lord is now calling to his house to worship and pray. And we want to invite you on this journey with us. Fusion Ministries didn't choose Juarez, Mexico. Juarez, Mexico chose Fusion Ministries because of the plan and purpose in God's heart to love this city, to redeem this city, and make her a crown of glory in his hand.
Well, the first thing that I see that God is doing in Juarez is bringing us a conviction of how desperately we need the help of God. So they came and they taught us as a team how to embrace things that perhaps we have even taught before, but have failed to live it out. The message that 2 Chronicles 7:14 teaches us, if my people humble themselves, and it calls us to make a diagnosis that we are wrong, that we are prideful, that we like bringing attention to ourselves. We compare our big ministries, and we only dedicate our schedules to our ministry, and not towards unity, nor that self-assessment. So during the consecration process, 15 to 20 churches had to come to grips with this, that we have sinned against you, God. When they put in my hands the face-to-face guide, and I began to read it, page after page, and each day that I would read, I would feel more the presence of God convicting me about the church and how we have to experience that humility, humbling ourselves on our knees and lifting our faces to God to tell him how hungry, how thirsty we are for his presence. I would hear in the middle of the night, about 3 or 4 in the morning, the cries of many people on the floor, brokenhearted, just imploring their heart to God for forgiveness. And I would kneel right down with them and say, here I am with you, and even more so with you. It was just something so beautiful. Coincidentally, violence started to decrease from around 12 to 13 murders a week. We know that there are still murders happening, but now there's just 2. Another thing that has also surprised me is the answer to our prayers to have a house of prayer. Prayer is fundamental to a citywide transformation and consecration. And so now we are consecrating our new house of prayer. We are returning to learn really how to pray. And one of our future goals is to learn how to sing in the Spirit and to sing our prayers, how to pray out of the Word. Yes, of course, we're going to be interceding and everything that requires. But the intercession that we've done in the past, we're realizing has just been this monotonous process because we just come and pray for our own needs. We might pray for the election or the economy, but while we're far away from God, what we have learned is that that is not correct. We must first draw near to Him, and then later, in humility, make our request. The house of prayer that we are now consecrating is the basis of the transformation that is happening in our community. The house of prayer will be the primary incense that will begin to rise as a fragrance to God, that God would continue to have mercy on us. Brothers and sisters, I am so very happy, and I feel the favor from the Lord that He would fix His eyes upon us as a city of Juarez, a city in ruins, and that has such a horrible image around the world. But today we are seeing His promise being fulfilled because He sees the forgotten and the rejected to bring glory to His own name. And so I'm so very thankful to be able to serve on this transformation team. And so with Roberto and several visits from Rhonda, we started just meeting every week, praying, seeking God. Back at the children's home, we were doing the same thing with the children. Just started really putting aside other plans that we had been thinking of, and just focusing on how can we get God's presence back into the city. So it was just the beginning of this past summer that Rhonda really began to feel the need to birth this idea of a house of prayer in Juarez. And we were thrilled, of course, Roberto and I, and the team, this family that was being formed. And literally weeks later, someone gives us a building. So here it had not even been a year, and I had such a strong desire for more God's presence in my life. And all of a sudden, I'm given keys to a house of prayer. And there we are, this family in Juarez, we're meeting, and we don't even know really what we're doing. But we just know this is something God is passionate about, and we're joining Him in this. Rhonda comes to visit, and we invite various people to come and join to consecrate our new building that God provided. And His presence just showed up strong, and it's something planted in the heart of everyone that was there that morning that has increasingly been growing very rapidly actually over the past several months. This is Eric. He is also someone who was raised in the same children's home that God is inviting here to the house of prayer.
Y me escogió para un plan muy grande que va a suceder.
It looks like God has chosen me for something very big that's about to happen.
Y hace unos minutos acabamos de comenzar un proceso de cómo va a ser la oración.
And just a few months ago we were talking about how we're going to be able to begin this prayer room.
Y pues pienso que a través del tiempo pues Dios va a cambiar poco a poco la ciudad.
And I do believe that little by little God is going to be changing this city.
La situación que está pasando.
The situation that's happening here.
Y si cambia la ciudad, se va a expandir de todo el país.
If this city changes, it's going to be able to change the whole entire nation.
Si Dios quiere en otros países, cada vez más.
And if God wants something like this to happen in other nations, it will happen as well.
Hasta que ya Dios diga, no, pues ya es hora de que me los lleve.
All the way until that moment where God says, okay, now it's time to bring them all home.
Eso es emocionante.
And that's something very exciting. We are just leaving behind every other thing to go after this, because this is where God's heart is for the city, and we're committed to it. We're seeing other people that we're inviting, committing to it. They're passionate for it, and we would just love to invite you onto this journey with us. We don't know what the very next step is, but we know that God is giving the city hope. He's giving you a new name, and we're going to see this place transformed, and what used to be a place of destruction, a place that people wanted to leave. We see a new identity forming that God's giving this place, rooted and grounded in this family that He's inviting into the house of prayer here. We would love you to join that family and see what God is going to do in Juarez, and what He's going to begin to pour out of Juarez. Good things are going to come out of Juarez.
Sacrifice, let me dedicate my life to worship You.